Welcome, welcome to the last day of our Elul New Light activation program here in Northern Israel. It's like half an hour, something like that, till I need to light candles for Rosh Hashanah. Maybe it's 45 minutes. I hope so. Something, yeah, a little more like that. Okay, anyway, it's been wonderful to be on and just share thoughts and inspiration with you every day. And the main thing is that we are now entering into a new era. Literally, we're quantum leaping into a new world, hopefully right into destiny. So I want to talk quickly about, and I'm assuming that everybody isn't listening to every one of my lives, so I'm just going to recap the important points. And first of all, we crown God King. Ein melech below am. There's no king without a people. God has created the world in such a way, out of divine desire, that he doesn't rule us by force. Yes, he can give us some pretty strong hints, but ultimately free choice is ours, and we can choose to be an atheist if we want to. We can choose to rebel if we want to. We can choose to participate if we want to. We can choose. And that's the biggest gift that we can be given, because free choice really only belongs to God. So what does it mean that it's embedded in us, in a world of illusion, in a world of confusion? That's where God's free choice is activated. So in a very interesting way, and I can't quote any book where I learned this, but it seems quite obvious, that at the deepest level, way beyond the ego, when you choose to align yourself with the divine plan, you're allowing God to choose through you, through your own depths, as you, as you. So really, we have the opportunity to choose a world in which oneness reigns, in which divinity reigns, a world that's habitable, and a world that's sustainable, a world of good, a world of heaven on earth. And really, that's what's up for us. That's what's coming in. And every one of us gets the choice of participating. So I encourage you at this point, throughout the month, we've been working on rectifying the past and preparing for the future. And it's not that that's always in place. It's always in place. But mostly now we want to work on taking that leap, preparing for that leap into a new world. Do not bring the past, not the dysfunction of the past, not the limitations of the past, not the traumas of the past. Don't bring that into the new world. You don't need to. So really there's a space. What's happening, if you prefer this language, is tonight, the first night of Rosh Hashanah, the world, God brings the world back into what could be called a state of quantum superposition, where really nothing is determined and everything's open. The truth is that that's the case at every moment, because the world is being recreated at every instant, now and now and now and now and now, from infinite divine potential based on divine desire. So everything is literally always new. It's never old. But we do get recreated, as does the world, with a memory. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to master the mind, because everything that's old and stagnant exists in the mind, in that memory, which is also being recreated, but which we can rise above. However, no matter where we are with that, now on Rosh Hashanah, we all have the opportunity to step into that space, which is created for the whole world. Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of humankind, the birthday of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created one, male and female, in the beginning. Most opinions say back to back. And then there was the process of separation, so they could look at each other face to face with the unconsciousness in the back and work things out. That is a metaphor. It's not a metaphor. It's a fractal. Also a metaphor, but it's actually a fractal of how God and the source of all the souls were literally one, the male and the female. God as creator above the universe, and God as creator in the universe through the souls and beyond. And then there was that separation, just like Adam and Eve, the core of the fractal, where now humanity, creator and humanity, have to work it out. Previously, they were one, back to back. Now, face to face. When you're face to face, you might have issues, but you also have the opportunity to work out the issues so that you can have a face to face, not a confrontational, not a judgmental, not a sad relationship, not a traumatic relationship, but an incredible, beautiful love relationship. So that's what we're working on. Anyway, if I can convey one thing, I really want to give you the sense of how all of reality, all of the past, everything is going to be withdrawn. Again, as I said, into a state of quantum superposition, going back into nothing, into infinite divine potential, so that every single creature says in the Torah, on this day the world trembles, on this day the world is born. what could you be? What would the world be like if it could be born again without dragging that weight of the past? And that's the space that God himself is stepping up and creating for us, leaving that open space for us to create a new union, a reunion with our source from a place of zero, from a place of anything is possible, from a place of forget about history, let's go into destiny, let's leap into destiny. So in that regard, I just wanted to share a few words, because this is the last session of this series, about the central soul. So as I said, Adam and then Adam and Eve, the Adam-Eve being was the central soul. What does that mean? It means that there's really only one soul. That soul, that one soul was the first human, the first man, Adam, starting with Aleph, which is the name, which is the letter that indicates God, and Dam, the life force. Dam is blood, the life force in the blood. It is also the gematria, the gematria of Adam. I'm going to leave that for a second. So Adam, the core soul, has, because I don't want to get lost, contains within himself the cells, within itself the cells of every one of the souls that would ever live from that moment until the end of time. So we are all cells in the cosmic body of Adam, but that central soul, that collective soul that every soul is part of, that's the oneness of humanity. And that is a direct connection, a direct line of connection to the infinite and to the divine. Like Moses, it says, when he received the Torah, it wasn't like he was thinking about the Torah and trying to explain it. No, he received the core download with all the codes that would be later explicated and explained. He received it directly from the voice, from the mouth of God, directly from God. And when he spoke, when he gave it over to the people, it says, Shechina midaberes mitoch rono shel Moshe, that the Shechina, this female part, this indwelling light of the divine, the source of the souls and everything that exists in the universe, in the known universe, the unknown universe, the created universe, all of that is the Shekhinah. And that spoke directly, the immanent presence of God, that spoke directly through the throat of Moshe, of Moses. So the central soul is a connecting, what's called a mamutza mechaber, an intermediary that connects two opposites. So the central soul is connecting God and humanity, heaven and earth, and we are part of the central soul. And that connects us to the degree that we can bring that connection into consciousness and into the garments of the soul, once again, thought, speech, and action. To the degree that we can do that, that is the degree to which we will show up, not just to others, but to ourselves. We will show up in the world as the unique creation called man that is created in the image of the divine. We need the central soul. There has never been a Torah without a central soul. So in our generation, the central soul is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, I had the vast, irreplaceable privilege of living in his neighborhood and seeing his holy face day after day for quite a few years in Brooklyn, New York. And to be there when he announced that, as did many others, but to be there when he announced that he has done his part, basically, and now he's giving it over to us, each one of us, to bring Mashiach and Geula, the messianic redemption, here and now, to do everything that we can to make it happen in literal reality. And he also said that he didn't say it like this, but he said, may be God's will that there will be 10 stubborn people from a stiff-necked people. The Torah often calls the Jewish people the stiff-necked people. Stubborn. We're strong in our ways. Anyway, it's a negative and a positive. Hopefully it should be used for positive. And may there be who will not give up until this job is done, who will not give up until Mashiach and Geula have come in fullness. And may there be 1, 2, or 3 people who will be found, who will know what needs to be done and how it should be done. So the central soul represents what's called malchus in Hebrew, and in Kabbalah, malchus is sovereignty. We crown God as the melech, as the king. I've said this before in previous lives, at least one or two, but the concept of God as king, the concept of any Torah king is not a moshel, a holy king, a righteous king who's anointed, God's anointed, is not a moshel, is not a ruler who rules by force. Obviously his word goes, but not because he's forcing you, not because he's going to punish you if you don't. God It doesn't work like that with God either. It's not that we're supposed to do what we do out of fear. Sometimes a little fear could help, but that's not the core of it. The core of it is there's an intrinsic oneness between the king and the people. The king cannot rule without the people. Who is going to rule? Who is he going to send out on the missions? The people cannot exist without the king. Why? Because literally everything that we have, everything spiritual that we have, everything physical that we have comes from that central soul. We're a cell in that core body. So just like one cell in your body could not exist on its own without the brain, without the connection to the brain, so too, whether we realize it or not, we can't exist without the connection to the central soul. So in the coming year, before the coming year, it's a good idea. I highly recommend. I saw things when I lived in those years in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, near the Rebbe. I saw things that me and many others, but let's put it this way. The small, relative to 7.5 billion people, the small percentage of the population that had the merit to be in the proximity of the Rebbe, saw things and know things that other human beings don't believe to be possible. And that's what I'm here to tell you. Because it's the central soul, it's the Moses of the generation. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's a direct download from Adam and Eve through in each generation, that central soul, to Moses and the giving of the Torah, every generation one anointed. And ultimately that will be Mashiach, who will contain all of the souls in a certain way, will be connected to all of those souls as they incarnated in every generation. So I want to repeat something that I've said. I believe I said it yesterday. I don't remember exactly how much I said. This is not original with me. I've been hearing this in other people that mentors that I respect online. It's buzzing around people who are connected to the Rebbe. So I want to share it with you in case you didn't hear it. And if you did hear it, it's worthwhile to hear it again. And that is that 30 years ago, when I lived in Crown Heights in Brooklyn near the Rebbe, it was a wild time. Around the same time that the Rebbe said that he's done everything he can. It's time for Mashiach, the Redeemer, to come now. And it's up to us, each of us, to do what we can, what I just said earlier. So many crazy things happened, and the Rebbe predicted many things. And at the beginning of each year, he gave us the acronym of the year, because the Hebrew year is described as in Hebrew letters, which are equivalent to numbers. That's how it works in Hebrew. So the year 1991, Tafshin Nun Aleph, as the calendar changed on that Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe told us that was an acronym for Tehei Shnas Arenu Niflaos. This will be the year, quoting God, that I will show you wonders. What is a wonder? A wonder is something that is literally impossible, but it becomes not only possible but natural. I mean, there are different definitions of wonder, but Pella actually, in its deepest sense, is a complete change in the nature of nature. A mere miracle is when, like a giant foot stamping on the treadmill and stopping the running of the treadmill. But when the foot, that would be nature, when the foot removes itself, the treadmill keeps going. A wonder, in many cases, changes nature so that the entirety of the future is now imbued with the impossible, which has become possible. We don't realize we're living in a world of niflaos already. But many things happen in that year, but definitely the Geula was not complete. But people have been looking at a discourse that the Rebbe delivered, a speech the Rebbe delivered in that year that he carefully edited himself. And in a footnote of that speech, just in a small nutshell, the Rebbe indicates that the year that we're moving into now, which is Tafshin Pei Aleph, the 5781, as opposed to back then 5751. So exactly 30 years later from that year, that those wonders which began in that year will come out in a far stronger way. In other words, to be very precise, the Rebbe said that in Pei Aleph represents the transformation of all that is difficult and challenging to wonders, miracles, and revealed good. Plaos, Shnas Arenu Plaos. I will show you wondrous wonders in a far more strong sense. I'm paraphrasing, but then even back then. So it's like something started 30 years ago. It was so painful for those of us who were there at the time and thought it was going all the way through. Literally, I lost a child around that time, right before the Rebbe gave that, inaugural speech urging us to do what we could. And I really believed, was galvanized. I'm sure the baby's soul came down to have that effect on me, but I believed that if we didn't stop, trying to do what we could, to bring this awareness to the world, whatever it was that we did at the time, that we would push it all the way through like the birth. But it seems it wasn't the beginning of the birth. It seems, or it wasn't the end of the birth, rather, it was the beginning. But by all signs, so much to say about this, so much to discuss about this, so much to pray about this, so much to integrate about this, so much to activate around this. But it seems that this is the time. This coming year that starts tonight will be the time of the birth. And if we look at the past year, which was so full of challenges and even tragedies, fear, but at the bottom of it all, everybody in the world is awakened on some level or another. Even if they're like, what? Sometimes we wake up like that, like, where am I? What's going on here? But everybody is tuned into the same thing. Life is not normal. It is not going on as normal. And what better prelude, when a woman gives birth, she often, especially toward the end, is only hyper-focused on one thing, loses the sense of who's around her. I mean, at least that's my experience. I know that that's not an uncommon experience. So the world is like that, and there is no more. We have never been as prepared for a world to move into a quantum leap into a world of wonders and miracles. So as we move into Rosh Hashanah, it's the last day of Elul. Some of us have a few minutes left. Some of you have several hours left. But at the last day of Elul, have a heart-to-heart with yourself and a heart-to-heart with God. The King is in the field. I am to my beloved is to me. Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. And then prepare yourself for that space of zero, that empty ayin, as the world goes back to a waiting state, to a state of quantum superposition, so that we can choose to accept upon ourselves this core holographic relationship with the central soul, and through that to God directly. And we don't need to go through. It's just that the central soul, like the Torah connects us to God, the central soul connects us to God. Nothing is in the way between us and God. We connect directly. So we understand, though, malchus, by seeing a human who is beyond anything that we consider humans to be, who is godly completely, who the Shekhinah, the immanent presence of God, speaks through the throat of that person, like the Moses of every generation. So we can have a fleshly example that we can see and hear and emulate to the degree that we can, of what it means to be a human being created in the image of divine. And that's the purpose of a Torah king. And then ultimately the King of Kings. We crown the King of Kings tonight. Tomorrow night. We crown the King of Kings tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, when we will not blow the shofar tomorrow, but we will say the verses of coronation. And on Shabbat, when Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbat, the first day, which it is this year, and apparently it's the first time in 10 years, God actually does the work. So we're starting out from a place of Geula is compared to Shabbat, the Yom Shekula Shabbat. We're starting out from a space of everything is done, and now we only have to, in the second day, blow the shofar and just lean into it with everything we've got. It doesn't matter what your background is. There's one God. There's one core soul, one central soul. There's one Geula. There's one Torah. There's one world. And I just want to invite everyone to lean into this truly divine space with everything you've got. Crown the King. Crown the King. Okay. Good Yantif, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Shana Tova Umituka. I want to wish you that you are written and sealed in the book of life for a good and sweet year, with every kind of revealed goodness and every kind of revealed sweetness, and in such a way that the more blessings you can perceive, the more blessings that flow your way, the more you can perceive them, the more whatever flows your way you can perceive as blessings, the more it should come out as only revealed good, only sweetness. Sweet. That's why we say a good and sweet year, because we can have goodness that's divine, but we don't perceive it as good. When it's sweet, and that's what we're looking for. The Geula is sweet. So I'll see you on the other side. I'll see you next year. Take care, everyone. So much love from Israel. Bye-bye.